So good morning, everyone. And it's a great honor to have been invited to moderate this plenary session today. Let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm a CEO of Good Steward Partners, and I used to run the global, Japanese government pension fund, and then UN Special Envoy for Sustainable Investments. And today, I really appreciate, the FII Institute and the sponsors and partners and Royal Highness and Excellencies to make this happen. And I was given the very honorable task of moderating this session, and also very difficult task to moderate this panel with 5 distinguished panelists, and we are given 45 minutes. So. My aim of the session, the title, the Board of Changemakers, New Asia, is going to have, the leave, setting the tone and a context for the following conversation throughout the day, and to highlight the key themes, opportunities and challenges for world and Asia or Japan, and to offer the idea which can be really expanded in more depth in the following session of the day. So to do that, our discussion will be guided by 3 broad questions. And the first, just going to ask looking ahead over the next few years, and the second, turning into the region, and the third, it's probably most interesting to ask their personal and their organizational forward-looking initiative or their leadership. So, and to our panelists, let me also say that I have to be very mindful for the time I can allocate to each of you. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody has a fair opportunity to share their views and insights. So let me briefly introduce our panelists. From my side, Laura Chia, the trustee of Rockefeller Foundation, and the board, the director of the board, Bretton Woods Committee. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the next is the Akihiro Fukutome, the president and CEO of the Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation. And then the other, Kanetsugu Mike, chairman of the board of directors, Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group. And the Dr. Ridha Wirakusumah, I tried my best, and CEO of Indonesia Investment Authority, welcome. And finally, but not the least, the Dr. Angela Wilkinson, and CEO and Secretary General of the World Energy Council. So welcome, everyone. I think we are all excited to hear from all of you. So let me start with the Lola, if you don't mind. So what do you believe will define the global economy for the next, the coming years, the key forces, risk, and opportunity that leads in, the leaders in this room should be aware of? Yeah. Just to, we really cannot dig into, so just to bring in whatever you think is the most important, this group of the audience.
Well, I think this year we have seen steady growth in the global economy. I think earlier this year we had anticipated around the world the impact of the US tariff. But as the months had panned out, the world has actually weathered that in a better condition than had expected. I think that is due to a number of factors. One is there had been multiple exemptions through negotiations, and the second is really the private sector's agility in diverting or rerouting supply chain, and also the development of a more diversified market. Obviously, United States is a huge market that cannot be easily replaced, but I think the geopolitical tension as well as the tariff tension has caused countries to rethink and to remap their marketing strategy, and new markets have been developed, and interregional trade has therefore increased. The IMF, I attended the IMF meeting in October in Washington, and the word that I heard most often is resilience. And I think that has kind of defined what has happened this year. And looking ahead, for this year, for example, the IMF projected that the global GDP will be 3.2% growth, and for next year will be about 3.1%, so the difference is not going to be huge. But the advanced economies' contribution to the global economy in terms of GDP growth is 1.5%, whereas emerging market is about 4%. So, among the emerging markets, of course, Asia, as Richard has alluded earlier, we are the gravitational force of global economic growth. And that is because of several reasons. Several major economies are in Asia: China, Japan, India, South Korea, Indonesia. All these are great contribution to the world economy. And also, in 2024, Asia economy was $40 trillion, which is 46% of GDP growth, and is the largest economic region in the world. And in 2025, that 46% is going to increase and is projected to reach 60% by the year 2030, which is not that far away. So you see that Asia will have great potential, has already shown that its development strength and the potential is huge. And then on top of that, the Asian population is another factor that we cannot ignore. We have also 60% of the world's population, 750 million of young people between the age of 15 and 24. Although we say, countries like China, Japan have aging population, but these are easily replaced by countries with a young population in India, Indonesia, and the rest of Southeast Asia.
That one you can probably save for the second question.
Yeah.
We're going to do into the regional perspective. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so I just stopped there by saying that Asia really represents a major force in the coming economic growth.
Thank you very much. And next, Fukutome-san.
Thank you, Mr. Actually, I express as a panelist, we answer same answer, same answer. So I just start upon one thing that when we talked about the current status of a global economy, what we see on the ground, or what we hear in the discussion with business community in Japan and globally. The most important thing is, as it says, that this big transformation of our international business order, that matters a lot more than current economic, status or credit cycle or business climate. So we are focusing on, maybe supply chain disruption, or maybe circular economy, or global order in a new trade and business flows. So that's, I just make it very quick and short, but that's what I do say.
What do you think is going to be the most important driver, or what to define? What's the biggest defining factor?
Well, actually, maybe I would say next question, but we need a more global collaboration for the longer term view.
Right. Thank you very much. Mike-san, please.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm also cautiously optimistic about outlook of a global economy. Despite many challenges, like the heightened geopolitical risks, impact of tariffs, increase in sovereign debt, and so forth, that we observed the very robust activities of our businesses and other areas. So, apart from that, I see that there are main two growth drivers for the global economy, which work in a favor in the midterm and long term. One is demographic dividend. As she mentioned, yes, there are the many developed countries who are experiencing the aging and the declining population, but globally, though we see the still increase in the population, it is expected to increase for coming 60 years. So now population is around 8 billion. It is expected to exceed the 10 billion in 30 years' time. So there is clearly the democratic dividend for overall global economy. Second driver is the technology. We've seen lots of innovations. Likewise, the generative AI, which is not just to replace the workers, but to expand the ability of human beings, which enables the human beings to improve exponentially its productivity. So that will surely work as a big driver for the growth. But key here is that how we would enable that key driver, those growth drivers, realize its potential. That is how to effectively and efficiently allocate the resources available on this planet. That is a key challenge, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika-san. And next, Ridha.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I would like to take the approach of Asia's role in the global development a little bit differently. I think there is something about inequality and diversity. And a lot of time, the law of averages is not really the best thing. To give you an example, there's a huge difference between Japan or even China and Malaysia or Indonesia or Thailand, for example. Even in Indonesia, a country with 280 million people, the GDP per capita in Jakarta is about $56,000, yet overall in the country is $5,000. What I'm trying to say is Asia is going to grow, but please do not forget the macro versus the micro. I actually like the Tokyo or Japan example of always paying attention to little details. You know, the corner of Asia is quite different. The population growing and dividend is quite different, but it differs from one nation to another nation. I was in a taxi in Singapore, and he asked me how big Indonesia is. And I said, you know, Indonesia gives birth to one Singapore every year. And that's how big Indonesia is growing. We like to make babies, I'm sorry. But what I'm trying to say is, let me tell you another statistic. There are 28 million of disabled people in a country of 280 million in Indonesia. So they are poor, they are rich, they are disabled, they are capable, they are advanced, they are developing. What I'm trying to say is Asia is amazing, but please pay attention to details. Opportunities are everywhere, and I think it is exciting. If you look at that, diversity and inequality, the growth is beyond just on the headline, but also getting into the details and execute on those. Thank you.
It's great to have two consecutive positive view on the population, because I was born on the Tesla and I heard from the Elon all the time like the population collapse things, but the two consecutive positive view on the population is I feel positive about it now. So Angela, sorry to keep you waiting, but I'm sure you still have a lot to say following these the four panelist talks.
Well, I've definitely heard that we should have some cautious optimism about growth. I've definitely heard the story of diversity, which I subscribe to wholly. I think there are two 500-pound gorillas in the room. One of those is energy, and the other of those is climate and environment, sustainability. And I think what we've learned, even as there's more optimism that we're moving into a growth phase, we're also moving into a fragmentation phase with the potential for political and economic splintering. So I think the outlook that we're all facing is that we're going to be in an exponentially wired, that's what we keep talking about, the electrification supercycle, but we're going to be in a warmer, a socially wobblier, and a statistically weirder world. So that's what I think we're all grappling with. And the two 500-pound gorillas are Mother Nature and energy. And we talk about energy. Some of us mean electricity. We talk about energy as the useful stuff everybody needs for their everyday lives, decent work and decent living. And the sheer scale and scope of that is still not in the room.
So Angela, how do you think the world is ready for the exponential growth in electricity demand created by AI?
Absolutely not. I think the growing, and I think energy deficits are growing and underestimated in all parts of the world. I think if we look at Asia, and I believe there are many Asias, right? So I'm not using it as just the same way as we talk about Africa. There are many Africas. There are many Europes, right? There is one Saudi Arabia. It's a big, big player and very integrated. But for the rest of the regions, they're very diverse. So I think that we are not ready for the. In Asia, we see this as the demand engine, a lot of growth. We see this as the clean power manufacturer, a lot of progress. And we also see it as the digital energy lab, right? And those three things all require a huge amount of energy.
Thank you very much. I think I just want to touch upon the climate change you raised. Like I came back from the Brazil COP, and as you can see, we didn't make significant progress, and it will affect our lives and economy too. And then maybe some of you, they gave me some talking point about the climate change or like how would it impact the global economy. Is there anybody want to jump in?
Maybe, okay, thank you. Well, at the first theme, we discussed about global economy, and you said that then we should focus on Asia. And Angela, and he talked about Asia. So I will touch upon Asia. As everybody agree, Asia is engine for the global economic growth, but it is a home to more than half of the world's population. It is deeply integrated in a supply chain for key industries, like with automobile semiconductors. And it is therefore growing at a much faster pace than the global average. But that demand the more and more powers and energy, as we discussed. So it appears to be the common challenge for every growing economy. But there is some unique factor, unique challenges for the Asia. I would say there are three unique challenges. First one is the energy mix. Asia is still heavily dependent on coal-fired power plants. And unfortunate fact here is that it is still 10 to 15 years old, much younger than the average age of the rest of the coal-fired power plants. So if we are going to exit from coal-fired power plant, we have to pay something for that lost economic value.
Very expensive to decommission, yeah.
Yes. And two, technology. To deliver the affordable, stable power, we needed to possibly scale up renewable plants. But we needed some technology breakthrough to make the renewable more pricely competitive compared to coal-fired power plant, incumbent power plants. I know that there is many arguments how expensive they are or how inexpensive they are, but the current price for the electricity generated by the coal-fired power plant in Asia is cheaper than those generated from renewable. So we need some breakthrough in the technology for the renewables. The third is the financing. The Asia needs the $3 trillion of transition finance every year in order to achieve that net zero goal. The funding so far is made just $300 billion, just 10% of what they need. So we have to mobilize more capital and the finance into the areas of Asia in order to enable the Asia to achieve that net zero goal. So there are many discussions surrounding these challenges, likewise a blended finance or new technology or CCUS and so forth. But the key is, as our Fukutome-san mentioned earlier on, partnership, collaborations is a clear key here to mobilize every necessary resources of financing to these areas.
I think the collaboration and the partnership has raised by two panelists already, and I feel like the world is going into more bilateralism than the multilateralism. So the gathering of these kind of things is very important to continue to promote that the collaboration. But I think my attempt of attempt to frame like starting from global and the regional and then your personal organization is now collapsing because everybody started touching on Asia. But that evidences how important Asia is in this the future of the world. So I think it's that's actually give us a lot of a segue for us to continue. So maybe Fukutome-san, you want to add to the Mike-san's point on the financing need for for Asia?
Yes, yes. Then yes, Mike-san talked about the energy, so I'll just touch upon that again, restructuring of the supply chain because as what we see in this very difficult, geopolitical situations, maybe we should not depend on a single country for, supply chains. So then that question comes, which countries or regions can position themselves as a new hubs of a supply chain? And I think, of course, ASEAN countries and India are very strong candidates. But I think in the maybe partly they may face very certain challenges like infrastructure bottlenecks. So Japan, I believe, is a very strong candidate on that regard, especially when I hear our Minister of Finance, Katayama-san, just touched upon like Japanese governments are now promoting initiatives including welcoming the inward FDIs from abroad. Japan has a very strong candidate on that. That's one of the main issues.
Thank you. Laura and then Angela.
Okay. I think I agree with Angela about the Asia's share of the utilization of the fossil fuel and coal power. Asia actually accounts for about 51% of the total global carbon emission, and it's still about 82% of coal power. But at the same time, because of these high utilization, the impact on climate and nature is huge. We see natural disasters, and it is a region at the same time need really investment into sustainable finance. In 2024, my statistics shows that Asia has captured 50% of the world's energy transition investment. This is about investment, which is already double that of those in the US itself. And also, we have installed 70% of the world's new renewable energy capacity. This is the capacity, and that's led by China. And I think, the availability and the affordability of electrification is key to energy transition. So not only because of the technology advancement, but we need the financing, and also we need more technology innovation to make the energy cheaper so that it could benefit a larger population. And as Dr. Sindha said, we have a wide variety, a huge spectrum of population in Asia. And so the investment in terms of sustainable finance is huge. And that's where the capital market has been able to play a role. I think using Hong Kong as an example, the stock market this year has been performing exceedingly well in Hong Kong. And 70% of the new listings are in new technology. And
green technology?
Yeah, and it is in green and new and renewable. So it's very helpful that the capital market will help to help finance and try to bring the cost down. That will benefit a larger population.
I see. So Angela, let us finish on energy, and please.
I would just say we're the Changemaker board, and change-making is really hard, particularly when you're talking about large, complex, and interdependent systems. And I think we talk about change-making in quite a trivial way. We have to think about mindsets. In the energy world, there's still far too much emphasis on supply centricity rather than user centricity. We have a deepening cost of living crisis everywhere. Affordability is becoming something different. Yep. We talk about data and trends, but actually our models are very deficient for the world the future that's coming at us. A digitalized world is very different from just the old industrial economy. We're all grappling with what models do we need. And our measurement frameworks are lacking. So the World Energy Council 20 years ago brought forward the World Energy Trilemma. You have to manage security, along with equity, along with sustainability, and all three of those are in flux. Resilience, the new security, but resilience of what, for whom, and where? Let's not talk too much about generalized resilience. Affordability and equitability. It's not just about closing poverty gaps, it's about billions of people wanting decent lives, flourishing. And in terms of sustainability, I've spent 40 years working in climate. 40 years ago, I was optimistic that we could address mitigation. 40 years we've had, and we haven't addressed mitigation. And I want to be clear, mitigation is an emissions problem, not a resource problem. It's about emissions, not about oil or gas or nuclear or renewables. It's about the emissions. Well, 40 years, we've wasted our time. We now have an adaptation crisis coming towards us.
Yeah.
And this is going to rewrite financial rules for everybody. It's going to rewrite financial flows. And the last thing you need to know about energy is capital is fungible. Capital flows in many directions very quickly. Electrons are weird. They don't like flowing in multiple directions, and they're very place and material based.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think we should give.
Yeah, let me just add. Coming from, I think I'm the only one from global south, so to speak.
No.
I was in New York about a month ago, among all the private equity titans and or CEOs of banks, and the topic was catalyzing concrete action for climate change in global south. And guess what? The discussions we had for 1.5 hours, we talked about global south less than 5 minutes. The 95% of the time was talking about building data center, AI capable with energy in North America.
I agree.
So, with your statement, with everybody's statement, if we need to change, we need to really change. We need to develop the financing and the technologies and the focus, because not everybody, if I go to, I don't know if you have been to Indonesia, you can actually take 1 hour flight from Jakarta to an island in Kalimantan. From there, 15 minutes, and then you take a boat and you'll be next to the orangutan. The point is there is no electricity, there is no AI, there is no data center. What I'm trying to say is we have another crisis coming, i.e. the demand of AI. But let's not forget the rest of the population that still need electrifications. We still need the mix of energies. Japan and Indonesia has a lot of geothermal energy, for example. We got to harness our mind and technologies and financing to developing the alternatives and renewables to as many people so that we can actually lift the prosperity across, not just one single thing which is now driving everybody into AI. I think we have to concentrate on those that are left behind as well.
Right. Thank you. Well, I think that what the Angela raised, the trilemma, is the quite in line echoes with the other Japanese, other Keidanren's and the METI's energy policy too. So it's encouraging. But I think we need to be mindful of how we leave the better world for the future generation too. So I'm going to talk about that as a last question. I'm going to ask you about as a last question. But let's develop on the opportunity for Asia, because we talked a lot about energy. But anybody wanted to intervene, just raising other interesting opportunity for Asia and Japan?
All right. Well, where do you want to start? Which Asia? But if I start with Japan, I'm here because the Japan Energy Association celebrates its 75th anniversary this year. That's where I'm going. And I think Japan is remarkable. It's got a century of technological prowess in resilience. And I think that it stands at the frontier of demographic, climatic, and digital frontiers. And so I'm very interested in what's the new resilience, frameworks, models, stories coming out of Asia and particularly Japan. When I go to the rest of Asia, there are tensions. tensions between the youth of a coal power sector here. Under 15 years, we've got to think about stranded assets, but we've got to think about stranded communities even more. That how do we actually shift our measurement from bigger inputs to better outcomes? And I think that's what you're talking about, is better outcomes are place-based. They're not universal, they're place-based. This is going to be challenging. Asia is the most diverse energy, demographic, and place-based part of the world. Solar doesn't work in Asia like it does in the Middle
I think
East.
the Mika-san and Fukutome-san, you should,
Okay. As a Japanese, I must have said something. I think Japan, well, we discussed some time about the collaboration and partnership. I think Japan is well positioned to play a role of, I would say, the boundary spanner to connect the world. Japan is the only Asian member of G7, although its economy size is somewhat decline, but still it's the fourth largest economy, and it went through various challenges, as Angela mentioned, and also it's religiously speaking, Japanese accept almost every religion,
Yes.
and it believes in rather animism. So Japan would be said as very inclusive in a many sense. So that enabled Japan to play the role of a boundary spanner. In fact, the ASEAN think tank put Japan as the most trustworthy, reliable country among the developed countries.
And the Singaporean Prime Minister recently said Japan is the most trusted partner in Asia.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the same survey revealed that Japan is not powerful enough to make influence over the world. So I know that we are welcoming Prime Minister Takaichi later on, and we really hope that she exercises a strong leadership to play that role going forward. So I'll stop here.
Just that open sustainability finance in the Asian countries, especially on energies, because when we talk about transition finance and blended finance means a collaboration with private financial institutions, with government institutions. All our Japanese mega bank, MUFG, Mizuho, us, SMBCs, are top leaders of the area globally. We are good at collaborating with other countries, collaborating with other government, with other countries. That's our strength. So maybe we can do more on the regard for Asian and promoting sustainability finance, blended finance in that region.
Any other, Ridha, you want to raise anything interesting?
Yeah, well,
opportunity?
I kept saying I wanted to make sure that the global south or the less developed Asia is getting a lot of attention. But for all of you who wants to come and think about Asia, it is indeed probably one of the most exciting continent. The demographic population growth is amazing. The technology from Japan, South Korea, China, and into the large market of Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has become one of the largest. In fact, I think it's the fastest growing region in the world, so that you can actually make that as a market for you. We have, I give you one small statistic just to explain how exciting it is in Asia. Japan has about 30 million square meters of warehouse, and all of them are modern. In Indonesia, there are 29 million, but only 8% of those are modern. Out of the 8% of warehouse, only 30% have water sprinklers. That's how big the difference is between the modern Asia versus less modern Asia. We work together with a Japanese company, two Japanese companies, developing the most modern warehouse that improve logistics, improve efficiencies, and actually makes the whole country even better. So you can actually take almost every single one of the dimension of modernizing Asia as one of the potential growth for investments. You know, we are actually Indonesia's first sovereign wealth fund. We focus on just initially growing into Indonesia's development. We have partnered with 40 partners from 15 countries, have closed 25 deals in the last 4 years, and we just barely scratched the surface. That's only Indonesia. Malaysia is the same thing, Philippines the same thing, you know, Thailand's the same thing, Vietnam is another thing. So Asia, to me, is probably extremely exciting in terms of growth, but you just have to pay attention to details and pay attention to those that are less, people say the road less traveled, not just the most obvious ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have 5 minutes. So I just wanted to ask you the last question. So how does your organization or you personally in your leadership capacity plan to contribute to build a better future for our children? So please choose, given the time, please choose the one lens like innovation, sustainability, or humanity. Yeah. And just to share your view as our final, your final closing remarks. Okay. So can we start with you?
Sure. We are in a fragmented world, and it's going to be fragmented for a while for the future. And in the fragmented world, connectivity is key to pursue sustainability, technology advancement to improve humanity. Connectivity is the key. Connecting people, connecting countries, connecting governments. And by connectivity, we have dialogues, and with dialogue, we can solve problems.
Thank you. Dome-san?
Thank you. I'd like to stay with sustainability lens, and directly want to pick up one topic that the EV shift in the auto industry. By the way, when I talk about the EVs, it's including BEV and hybrid and FCVs for the record. But our generation has been enjoying the benefit of mass mobilities. Mm-hmm. So the car industries gave us freedom to move, then freedom to travel around, and then maybe growth and wealth and prosperity. Then what the mission of our generation for next generation is to create new industries, new mobility system with the freedom, but with much less environmental cost for our children. Mm. So we have a lot to do together. Of course, competition is very important, but maybe we can work with, creating battery format, or charging infrastructures, or rule of recycling, or rule of, or promoting technology in the recycling and recovery of batteries. So again, we have a lot to do for next generation to collaborate together with a longer-term view for next generation.
Thank you. Mika-san, please.
Well, very personal view as a Kanetsugu Mike, what is important for future generation is education. That currently we are confronting many divides in many ways that is coming from possibly income equality. Income equality is coming from educational inequality. Educational inclusion, equal opportunities of education is critical key factors to make the world more sustainable and peaceful. So I would say education is a key.
Thank you.
I think I want to highlight 3 things, and 3 things that drives me and drives us is trust, impact, and execution. We need more partners, we need more friends, we need more people to actually work together. We need to have trust that actually based on mutual respect. Only then we can actually bring an impact to the world. Every single investments we make, we measure the impact. We have to do that. And lastly, with good executions, we will reduce so much waste. Those 3 words is a mantra for us: trust, impact, and executions. And I think that's probably how I would leave it on my message.
Thank you. Angela.
I agree we're in a pragmatic era, but I think we're in a visionary and pragmatic era, not an ideological era. I will always be the Energy for Humanity Secretary General of the World Energy Council, and I think that what we really need to do is understand that the gap between Wall Street and Main Street is still growing wider. The conversation is still very poor between Wall Street and Main Street, and that we can improve that everywhere.
Well, thank you very much for your very valuable contributions. And we're running out of time, but I'm sure that we left enough meat for the discussion during the day, and I'm sure that people will be referencing to your statements. And we just need to make sure not only excited about the current development and not to leave a difficult world for our children. So thank you very much for coming to join us, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Hiro.
Yeah, thank you. It's good.